Hey YouTube, Tweak here, bringing you all an update to my Dogmatika Ritual Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for July 2025. The Dogmatika Ritual deck is definitely one of my favorite versions of the Dogmatika lineup, being able to utilize our extra deck as a separate engine to get out our different Dogmatika Ritual monsters, making use of the main deck monsters and their ease with special summoning, whether we use cards like Nadir's Servant for this setup. Just gives you so many resources to look forward to using in this deck, and then gaining the different card effects depending on the extra deck monsters that we send to the graveyard to make use of as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the actual Dogmatika Ritual monsters, we're running 2 copies of Dogmatika Albazoa. This could honestly even be a one of. If you wanted to mix around some of the ritual numbers, you could run 1 copy of Albazoa and 2 copies of our next ritual monster. But with Dogmatika Albazoa, it's definitely your boss monster, having 4,000 attack and defense. It cannot be ritual summoned except by Dogmatic Calamity or another Dogmatika card effect. Dogmatika monsters you control are unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, and Link monsters, and during the main phase, you can make your opponent choose and apply one of these effects. And these effects means the opponent, for every 2 cards in your extra deck, send 1 card from your hand or extra deck to the graveyard, and then return all Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Link monsters you control to the extra deck. You're going to use each of these effects of Albazoa once per turn, but having this control over your opponent's other monsters gives you more of a setup. Either you're dwindling down their extra deck resources, or you're taking care of the ones they already have on the field by returning them to the extra deck. Then if they can't get those resources back, you'll just use the effect again the following turn to dwindle down their extra deck. Definitely a scary boss monster that just makes nothing of the extra deck. We're also running 1 copy of White Knight of Dogmatika and 1 White Relic of Dogmatika, the level 4 and level 8 variants, while our Albazoa was the level 12. You can ritual summon this card with Dogmatic Calamity, having the option for Dogmatic Calamity, and then White Relic being with Dogmatic Kamagbra. With this card, you have both the options for ritual summoning with this card, with Dogmatic Calamity or Dogmatika for Albazoa, but each one needs the respected ritual spells, which we run both copies in the deck as well for both of these monsters as well. Having the attack boost option with White Relic, and then White Knight being able to have this card. If your opponent activates a card or effect, except during the damage step, send 1 monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. And if you do, look at your opponent's extra deck and send 1 monster from it to the graveyard. And this card gains attack equal to half the combined attack of those monsters sent. So you'll send and gain a card effect off of your own, and then just get rid of an opponent's extra deck resource with this card. That's what the ritual monsters all rely around for this play. Having the same send option with White Relic. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck, then you can just get rid of another one from their extra deck thanks to this card also. The other Dogmatika engine, we're running 3 copies of Dogmatic Ecclesia, the Virtuous. It cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summoned from the extra deck. You can only use each of the following effects of Ecclesia, the Virtuous, once per turn. If a monster special summoned from the extra deck on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's normal or special summon, you can activate this effect to add 1 Dogmatika card from your deck to your hand, except for Dogmatika Ecclesia and the Virtuous. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, but it gives you search for all the cards we mentioned beforehand already. It gives us search for a good number of other Dogmatika cards. Sadly, Nadir's Servant is not a Dogmatika card, so we can't search this card, but we can search out a good number of other cards that we run in the deck also. Our other main deck monsters include 2 copies of Dogmatika Flordelis, the Knighted. During the main phase, if a monster special from the extra deck is on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then if you control another Dogmatika monster, you can negate the effects of 1 face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. And when your Dogmatika monster declares an attack, you can make all Dogmatika monsters you currently control gain 500 attack. So this can work well with Ecclesia, because you can use Ecclesia to search out Flordelis and then just have another special summon on the field, having both these monsters with an additional attack boost granted to both when your Flordelis attacks. And also 2 copies of Dogmatika Maximus. You can banish 1 Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And during the main phase, you can activate this effect. Send 2 monsters with different names from your extra deck to the graveyard. Also, your opponent sends 2 monsters from the extra deck to the graveyard. And you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. But really not a limit with this card. It's just a fun setup to get out, and then adding extra graveyard resources for another fun play that I'm running in the deck as well. With the rest of the main deck monsters, we're running 3 copies of Diviner of the Herald. Just being able to send a fairy monster from our extra deck to the graveyard to then have this card gain levels. The main play with this is to send cards like Herald of the Arclight or our Elder Entity to then have either a destruction effect or a search effect, depending on what we sent off of this card. So one of our better normal summon openers for the deck also. With the rest of the main deck monsters just being our hand trap lineup, 3 Effect Veiler and 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. If you have any of the Mulch Army Engine, you can always replace this spot in the deck also for those cards. For the spells, 3 copies of Nadir Servant. Send 1 monster from your extra to the graveyard, then add 1 Dogmatika monster, 1 Fallen Albaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That has attack less than or equal to the sent monster in the graveyard. Also for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you can special summon from the extra deck. You can only activate 1 Nadir Servant effect per turn, but the big play here is just to send the needed resource, then adding a monster that has less attack or equal. So then you can send the monster needed. You can send cards like Garura for the added draw that this card will get, and then search out your Ecclesia. You can send other monsters for our synchro options, including our Despian Lulawilith, because then after the send of this card, we can special summon a light spellcaster from the deck, which can be our Dogmatika Ecclesia additionally, or any of the other light spellcaster monsters that we mentioned before as well from the deck, using that synchro monster also. The 3 copies of Dogmatika Matrix. When this card's activated, you can add 1 Dogmatika Ritual monster or 1 Dogmatika Ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Then if your opponent controls a monster, you can add 1 Dogmatika card from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, if you control a Dogmatika Ritual monster, you can look at either player's extra deck and send 1 monster from it to the graveyard. So it's an extra send, but also being able to send your opponent's cards makes this one scary continuous spell to make use of, because not only does it give you a search, it's also a takeaway for your opponent's cards. The 2 copies of Dogmatic Calamity for when it's used to ritual summon any Dogmatika Ritual monster. And also you must tribute monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon, or send 1 monster from your extract to the graveyard whose total levels equal the level of the ritual monster as well. Lulawilith can count for our Albazoa, being the level 12 monster needed for that send as well, and then having the other monsters matched out as well for the extra deck resources that we use for these cards. And then the 1 Dogmatika Macabra, it can be used to ritual summon any Dogmatika original monster from hand or graveyard, tributing monsters from your hand or field, or banish fusion synchro monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal or exceed the level. So bigger ritual play for this card as well. The 2 copies of Preparation of Rites, being able to search out our 1 go-to ritual monster being our White Relic, and then the add back ritual play as well. If you wanted to try running a pre-prep count as well, you can do with this spot also. And then the last of the spells being 1 Call by the Grave. We're really limited to our own special summoning plays for the deck. That's why we're not running any of the other spells for the lineup of Search and Special Summon. But for the traps, we're running 3 copies of Dogmatika Punishment. Target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Send 1 monster with an equal or higher attack from the extract to the graveyard. Then if you do, destroy that monster. Until the end of your next turn, after this card resolves, you can special summon from the extract. You can only activate 1 Dogmatika Punishment per turn, but you can also interfere with your opponent's resources for the special summon, depending on what you send. Elder Entity being the best, since it has 2500 attack, can get a good variety of cards. Same with Garura, depending on the card you send with these cards also. The other card I'm running is Shadal Schism. This card really is fun in the deck. With all the monsters you can send, you can go for the fusion resource with some of our other Shadal monsters that we run in the extra deck, having the send off of our other cards in the deck. Then once we have those cards set up in the graveyard, we can use the other corresponding Shadal cards to then go for the fusion play we want as well. We have the dark and light aspect of Abkalon and Construct, which can then go into Winda. We have plenty of light monsters, which can be used with any of the other ones. The main play here is when we send El Shadal Abkalon off of other cards, like our Dogmatika Punishment, it can send that monster to the extra deck and then get the search for our Schism off of Abkalon's own effect, and then all we have to do is discard another card. So there's the search for this trap that we run in the deck as well. And then lastly, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just for an additional hand trap spot, along with the Effect Failures and the Ash Blossoms that we run in the deck as well. For the extra deck, for the Synchro monsters, 1 Despian Lulawilith, and then the 2 Herald of the Arclights. They're the send monster options to have search for the ritual plays, and then the special summon option off of Despian Lulawilith for that additional search for our Dogmatika monsters. The fusion monsters include 2 Elder Entity along with the 1 Garura for the draw power and destruction power with both of these sends. The rest of the fusions being the 1 Construct, the 1 Abkalon, and the 1 Winda. The Abkalon will be your first send for for your extra deck monsters, because then you'll get the search for your Shaddoll card from your deck to the hand. Then you just have to discard another card, but it's a great way to add Schism to your hand and then set up that card, which I'll go over the play at the end of the video, with the link monsters being 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Dynamondo, along with the 1 Nightmare Unicorn. Just a small link engine. You really don't go into it often, but still having some of these options available too. And then the Xyz monsters being 1 Exciton Knight and the 1 Sky Crisis. Once again, not as often used, but still available options available if you need them. And then as for some of the go-to plays, we'll go over the Shaddoll play first, being one of the favorite ones that I run in the deck as well. Let's say you go for the first play, being your Nadir Servant. If you want to also aim for the Shaddoll play with this, you can limit your opponent's special summoning with this card. You send 1 monster from your extra to the graveyard, add 1 Dogmatika monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the set monster in the graveyard. So what you'll do is you'll send your Abcalone. Abcalone has 2,500 attack, so then with this search, you can search out the good majority of your Dogmatika monsters. Depending on which one you want to add, they all have less or equal attack to the Abcalone that we sent. You can grab your monster off of this, then the Abcalone will activate since it was sent to the graveyard, being able to add a Schism to your hand. Then you just have to discard 1 card from your hand, so depending on what you have in your hand to send for that play, you now have the Schism and the Ecclesia in your hand for these cards as well. Then you're locked out of the extract for the rest of this turn, but then you can go for your normal summon of your Ecclesia with this card. If it's normal summon, you can add 1 Dogmatika card, so then you can use this card to add your Dogmatika punishment to your hand, so then you can have the setup with both of these cards. With this card till the end of your next turn, you can out special summon from the extract. Just remember that lockdown with your punishment, but with the added send, if you send a light monster off of the card, all the better with the Abcalone in the graveyard. So let's say if you instead has sent the Ash Blossom, you sent the Effect Veiler, that gives you a light monster in the graveyard as well for this summon. So then you can have your Ecclesia, your punishment, and the Schism set. Your opponent can set up their own monster on the field the following turn. You can go for the Shaddoll Schism, then banishing the Effect Veiler, and the Abcalone can get you the Shaddoll monster on the field from the extract, being your Construct. Construct can send a Shaddoll card from the deck to the graveyard with this card as well, being able to send the additional Schism if you wish to the graveyard, which then that's just mostly so you have an add back option with the Construct when sent to the graveyard to add this card back to your hand. But the main play here also consists of the fact that you can go for the Construct play if you have the additional Dark attribute monster in the graveyard. Let's say you sent 1 additional card like the Garura off of your punishment. You are locked out of the extract for this play, so remember that before you do this. But then you have the Winda play, which you can summon out, which once again, this will all come down to what you can set up in the graveyard as well. If you had the Diviner normal summon play to send a fairy monster from your extract to the graveyard, you have to remember that your Arclights and your Elder Entity are all light as well, which can give you plays for the Construct play. The big play comes down to the fairy monster send to set up in your graveyard for the Dark attribute play. But from there as well, you have just the additional monster resources to rely on in the same Dogmatika lineup, just adding the extra Shaddoll play for those summons as well, which if you have the Schism in your hand already, you can use the additional Nadir Servant play to send your additional Shaddoll monster for the setup, since Abcalone is your dark monster to use for that resource as well. For the actual ritual setup in the deck, Dogmatika Matrix definitely does come in handy with that, because when you activate this card, you can add the Dogmatika ritual monster or Dogmatika ritual spell. So then with this, you can add your Albazoa to your hand, then use the same play we mentioned before with your Nadir sending off the resource for the Virtuous. So then you can send your ritual resource off of this card, being your Herald of the Arclight for that play. Or if you want to go for the additional Lilith play for this card, we'll get you the Light Spellcaster and also set up the monster in the graveyard needed for your Albazoa to then use for the ritual play as well. Tree monster from your hand or field whose total level equal, or send 1 monster from your extract to the graveyard for that play. Or you can use the Shuffleback Power with your tribute and banishing those monsters from the graveyard. You can use Dogmatika Cabre to banish the Lilith to then have the summon of your Albazoa on the first turn 1 play from there. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I always love updating this deck. It's such a fun version for all the Dogmatika cards we have to use for the deck as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.